I saw Nobes crying, and when Eggard managed to get to the dressing rooms, he had to walk through the lounges, which were full of West Ham fans, because West Ham fans, when they go away, they don't just buy the tickets. They don't just buy the tickets to stand up.
No.
They buy the other stuff as well, the hospitality.
It's all around it.
And he walked,
Day out.
he's walked through the lounge, and by the time he got to the dressing room, he had all kisses on his head. where people,
I think I remember it.
Where women had kissed him.
Hello and welcome to Ironcast. We've got Coley, our first ever former manager, as a guest. Not only that, a star of the 70s. The architect of the Great Escape of 2007. Welcome to Ironcast, Alan Curbishley.
Right, pleased to be here.
Welcome back to West Ham. It's been a while.
Yeah. I managed to find my way round it. I ended up walking all the way around the stadium.
Did you?
I wasn't too
mile?
sure where the directors, like where this was. I've been here a couple of times. A friend of mine's in the Arnold Hills,
Yeah.
and I've come to watch a game just as a fan.
Yeah.
Recently it was Man City, I think it was, but I've not been over here a lot.
One thing I wanted to ask is, you said then you've come here as a fan. Obviously, you were born in Forest Gate, just a mile from West Ham Station. So, were you a West Ham fan as a youth?
Yeah, obviously, and I was brought up near West Ham Station, Gainsborough Road, which is about 400 or 500 yards from West Ham Station. And John and Clive Charles lived about 50 yards from us. So what was due to happen was I was due to go to Chelsea as a schoolboy. And my mum told Mrs. Charles that I was going to go off and start training with Chelsea. And Wally St. Pierre used to go and have tea at Mrs. Charles's house every Thursday because West Ham used to train at Pretoria School at the time, which was where Frank Lampard went to school, to be fair. And my mum told Mrs. Charles told Wally St. Pierre. Wally St. Pierre knocked on my door and said, "Don't go to Chelsea, come to West Ham." And that was it. I didn't go to Chelsea, and I signed schoolboy forms for West Ham.
That's it. Just a little chat over a cup of tea. That's how it worked back then.
And a wink.
That was it. Wally St. Pierre knocked on our door, said, "I'd like you to come to West Ham." And we went, "Oh, all right." Okay.
So what did you say to Chelsea at the time then? See you later, mate.
Well, they're still there waiting for you to turn up.
What it was, I was playing for Semreb.
Yes,
which was
Chelsea team.
Which was Chelsea affiliated.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So I was playing there with a couple of other kids that went to Chelsea. And because of that, Ron Greenwood then started up Poplar Boys to try and stop kids from East London going to Semreb.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how Poplar Boys was formed. So,
Interesting bit of history, Curbs. When you were 16 years old, you were named as an unused substitute in a game against Everton in August 1974. And at that time, you had the record for the youngest player ever named on a West Ham team sheet.
It was the first month into the apprenticeship.
Wow.
We'd just done the pre-season, and it was the first game of the season. And I didn't know, but there was loads of injuries to the first team. And Ronnie Boyce said to me, "Don't come and watch the youth team tomorrow. You just go straight to Upton Park." And I went, "Oh, right, okay." But he said, "No, just go straight to Upton Park. Don't bother coming to watch us tomorrow." But I did. So I went to Chapel Heath, and he gave me one look, Boise, and went, "Get back to Upton Park." And that's when I obviously got back there on the bus. And
had to get the bus.
I had to get the bus. And then announced
16 years old.
And then announced a sub. And I always remember John saying to me, "Look, if you go on, I'm going to put you in between Bonzo and Trevor. You'll be all right." Anyway, in a warm up, you're kicking it about and whatever. And the ball, we're playing Everton, the ball went into the opposition's half. And Bob Latchford just stopped it. And I ran up to him and I looked at him like, I just thought, God, he's bigger than you, Cole. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
That's what I've got to deal with.
And that was. So I was the youngest to be on a team sheet, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
But very similar for my debut against Chelsea. I'd done exactly the same thing. Went to watch the youth team.
Yeah.
And Boyce went, it was like April or so. Go on, get back to Upton Park. And, I ended up playing against Chelsea. That was my debut.
That's
and I went home on the bus.
I love that. Very similar to Nobes, isn't it? Nobes famously, when he made his debut, he had to get the bus back.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Yeah. Well, when I turned up at West Ham, Nobes was just on his way to go on loan to Ipswich. I think.
Ipswich, yeah.
Was it?
I think it might.
Yeah,
be
he might have already. Yeah. He wasn't in the first.
No, he'd already been somewhere on loan.
Hull and Ipswich.
He'd already been to Hull and he was due to go to Ipswich.
Okay, yeah, that was it.
And he came to see me, and I said, "Look, I've only been here a week.
Yeah.
Well, if I go, I'll get some football." Like, he was only 17 when he said this.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, look, I'd rather you stay, right? Because I've never seen you play." And he stayed, and the rest is history. You know, he made his debut. Well, for me against Spurs, I think, scored. That's when we was winning 3-1. I got beat 4-3, and I think it ended up with him crying on the pitch.
You, during your time as a player, I mean, you come through, there's a great academy at that particular year, like Jeff Pike, Paul Brush, Alvin Martin. You got to the final of the Youth Cup. Yeah. West Ham famous for the Academy of Football, but that was a particularly good year that you were in too.
Yeah, and we still get together, that youth team. We've had a couple of get-togethers. Dave Danson, the goalie, is the organiser, but we get Derek Fraser coming from Scotland, Tony Tunham coming from Norfolk, Malcolm Hill coming from Derbyshire. Mm-hmm. So we've had a couple of reunions.
Where'd you meet up?
The Bowling.
Yeah.
The Black Lion.
Yeah, serious.
All the local pubs.
Old school.
Yeah. So we're due one in the summer. The last one was at Leadenhall Market, because some of the boys come into London Bridge.
Yeah.
So we said
make it easy
instead of them coming to East London, we went there. But yeah, we get together regular. So
it's good.
We've lost a couple.
Yeah.
But generally, like 50 years ago, that was all together. So generally, most of the boys turn up.
That's so good.
I love that so much. Yeah. I love that.
Do you reckon that's going to happen this day and age? We, like some of us boys, like our crew, probably, we do meet up now and again.
Yeah.
West Ham boys, that is. But yeah, it's so hard because everyone's doing different things, living in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So, and especially now, you got more foreign lads that come in that make a team. So it's hard to probably say, come from France or come from Amsterdam or wherever they're from to come and do that. But back then, it was probably more English orientated lads. Yeah. And you can meet up when you can.
You know, down the middle, it was Alvin.
Yeah.
Me, Pikey. You know, so Terry Erlock.
Who
everyone forgets.
Terry
Erlock. Yeah. And, you know, he doesn't mention it too often.
Of course. But when you were competing for a first team place, I mean, the quality of midfielders that we had at the time, like, I mean, Trevor Brooking dipping back, Alan Devonshire, Pat Holland, Jeff Pike we mentioned, and of course, Billy Bonds.
Graham Padden.
Oh, like the competition we had for your spot was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. But Bonzo, he could play anywhere, couldn't he? So I got quite a few games. I got quite a few games because Bonzo was playing in the back four, and Trevor always went downhill with something, and we put it down because he drank so much Coke. Right?
Did he love it?
Oh, he's teetotal, so he just drank Coke all the time, and
too much sugar.
I was always guaranteed a couple of games because he'd go down with something.
Probably had a stitch or something like that.
Yeah, I think he still. Yeah, that's how it was. But
before games,
No, the treble Heath at the time. I always remember Ron Greenwood, because he just moved upstairs as our signed apprentice, and John was taking over. John used to be my under 13, under 14 coach at Pretoria and on the forecourt at Upton Park. But then suddenly, John got upgraded. He's the manager, and I always remember the philosophy then. And Ron Greenwood always used to say that we're going to try and give you the best education, football education we can. And if you become a player for West Ham, that's going to be brilliant. But if you become a player anyway and play for someone else, we'll be happy. And that was the philosophy. We're going to just try and turn you into a player. And if you play for us, you play for West Ham, great. If you go and play for someone else, we'll be happy as well.
The academy of football. I think we're like that. We take that in high regard right now. So I think that's carried on. And I think a lot of other football clubs took that philosophy too. Yeah,
I think that, the homegrown talent at any club, the fans get behind and give them a chance. And it's great to see. And especially if you've got a spine. And as I say, my generation, that youth team, Alvin, Pikey, down the middle and a few others that got games. It was, you always had a chance of playing in the first team. which is very, very difficult now. Obviously, it's been stifled.
Because all the money that's in the game now.
And the fact that, listen, managers are under so much pressure, they can't give a 16-year-old a chance if they're in a relegation scrap.
Yeah.
If they're going to lose all that money by being relegated, can you imagine it? Oh, no, I'm going to give him a game because I think, we might be able to produce someone. No, stay up. So it's very, very difficult, I think, for youngsters now to be given a chance.
Yeah.
We're sat here in the captain's lounge at the London Stadium. We've got a picture of Billy Bonds just behind us. Obviously, we lost Billy recently. Kebs, I wondered if you could share any memories of being in a dressing room with Bill or looking up to him earlier in your career.
Obviously, everyone's got their stories, but my first memory of Bill was just seeing his bum going up a hill pre-season because
he's fast, wasn't he?
Oh, he's
quick.
We used to have this long distance runner come in and take us through Epping Forest. It was like 3 20-minute runs, and Bill used to have a race with him. You know what I mean? Like, and we're trying to follow him, right? Like through Epping Forest.
Where were you?
I was all right. There's pictures of me.
He's in the middle.
There's pictures of me and Frank. Like, I was all right.
I heard Frank was at the back.
No. Me and Frank Senior, we was all right. Let me tell you. But he knew his way around. Frank, he'd been there.
Oh yeah. Shortcuts.
Bonzo and the runner were getting people lost.
Oh, was he?
Because they were
so fast,
charging off, and we're trying to follow them. And 1 or 2 people knew the shortcuts, and whatever. But no, and that's my first memory of Bill. First pre-season, just watching him like race this runner. And you've mentioned it, the youth team got to the Youth Cup final 75, and the first team got to the Cup final, Fulham, Bobby Moore. And I was sitting in the manager's office with Boise just having a chat. And the first team had a big meeting, and they was unhappy about their bonus for the Cup final and whatever. And they had a players' meeting, and Bonzo and Trevor were going up to see Ron Greenwood to try and get the bonus changed. And I see him walk past. And I jumped up and ran out, and I went, Bill, while you're up there, sort our one out, will you? Right? And he come back and went to me, bang, like smacked me around the head. And he never done it either. You know what I mean? And the other thing, when I was at Charlton, and Bonzo, so I'd done 20 odd years travelling from East London to South London, and Bonzo done it the opposite way. Right. And every now and then I used to talk to him, and we used to talk. I'd say, Bill, where's the tunnel? Like, he'd go, what's going on at Blackwood Tunnel? He was manager of West Ham. I was manager of Charlton. And I said, do you fancy swapping? He never answered. No. Obviously, Bonzo, pre-season, like training, he could just change the whole atmosphere by just a tackle in training or a look or a verbal. If it wasn't good enough, it just stop and start going like that to people. Didn't need John or anybody else to do it. Bonzo had that esteem that we just went, yeah, all right, Bill, it ain't right, yeah, so.
Oh man,
yeah.
You left West Ham in April 1979 to go to Birmingham.
Yeah,
was it a sad departure when you left?
Well, obviously I was offered a contract, but I wasn't playing. I played the first half of that season, and John had brought in Anton Ochilikowski, and as I say, Alan Taylor. He was playing in midfield as well, and I just thought, I've got to get away. And to be fair, when Birmingham coming for me, I thought, where's that? I was 19, 20, a bit like you, going to Villa. Right?
I was like that as well.
That's a long way away. Yeah, but I had a good friend who was playing for Birmingham, a guy called Keith Birchin, who I played England youth with. And, I went up there, he met me, I went and met Jimmy Smith. And I took my brother with me, my older brother, who had a pub in Trafford. And not a lot of people know this story, but West Ham should have played Birmingham Boxing Day, and he got called off because of the frozen pitch. And then we end up having the game rearranged just after West Ham got to the cup final, when Frank run round the post and Everton, was it?
Ellen Road, yeah.
Ellen Road. And so the game got rearranged, and West Ham were 5 points behind Birmingham with a game in hand. Birmingham was second. And we're playing on a Tuesday night, right? And obviously West Ham, if they win, they'd catch us and whatever. Anyway, Birmingham ended up winning it 2-1. That's when Bonzo and Colin Todd got sent off, and Bill was going to miss the final. Anyway, Jimmy Smith, in his wisdom, said, "Your brother's got a pub round here, hasn't he?" I went, "Yeah." "Come and we're going." I went, "Nah." I said,
Nah.
it's full of West Ham fans. "No, we're going. I promised your brother that if." Well, I said, "When did you do that?" He said,
I promised you. Behind your back.
So we've gone to the pub, the Lord Stanley. Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Colin Todd wouldn't get off the bus. And a couple of West Ham fans come out of the pub, got him off the bus and brought him in, to have a few drinks. We got back to St Andrews about 5 o'clock in the morning, right? It's because Jimmy thinks we're up. So we're away at Swansea on the Saturday and we're at home to Notts County. We've got to get a win to go up. So we go to Swansea and draw 0-0, right? And if we'd have won, we'd have gone up. And he's come in after the game and blamed me for taking them round the pub.
You had nothing to do with it.
I went, "Jimmy, you haven't even paid the bill." Right? you cockney. Taking us round that pub. Right, anyway,
gosh.
Anyway, forget that. We done it the next game. But yeah, so the Birmingham team ended up in the Lord Stanley.
Wow. And your brother had your brother.
Yeah, so Archie Gemmell went in there and he had 1 pint of Guinness and he went back on the bus because he didn't feel safe.
I love that.
No, it was mad.
I love
that. It was mad. Yeah.
Different back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, man.
Fans never used to mix, especially with the players.
That's crazy.
The opposition team as well.
The opposition team going to the Lord Stanley. That's amazing. Then after your playing career, you had a fantastic career as a manager, kicking off with Charlton a long time there. But was management something you always wanted to get into?
Yeah.
And who were the inspirations? But was it Ron Greenwood, John Lyle? Were these people that you looked up to?
As coaches, it was definitely Ron and John. They were fantastic coaches. I don't think there was ever a day where we'd come in and go, "God, that was crap." Like the training. It was just, everyone enjoyed, even if he wasn't playing, it was always enjoyable and, he was learning something. And, we play a game for an hour, possession, football, which is what everyone's doing now. We used to do it all the time in training. It was that's what we played. A man for man, but I always wanted to give it a go. The manager, I think, Jimmy Smith was fantastic as a man manager. And if you couldn't take his verbal, then you'd just melt.
Crumble. Yeah,
you'd melt. Things he used to say to people, not just me, but like Toddy and Frank Webb and whatever. But the one who struck me most, and I was only with him for a little while, was Ron Saunders. Ron Saunders left Villa after winning the league, had a bust up with a board, and was available. Birmingham ended up sacking Jimmy, who then went off to Oxford, and Ron Saunders come into Birmingham. And I only had him for about 8 months, but I knew why Villa had won the league by the way he conducted himself. And then he sold me to Villa. got me out and sold me to Villa. But, as you go along, those people, but Ron Saunders as a manager had a big influence on me. But as coaches, it was John and Ron.
When in your career as your playing career, did you realise that's what you wanted to do? Probably
when I went to Villa.
That was the How old was you then?
25.
25. That's
26.
when you wanted to do that.
Yeah, 25, 26, something like that. And what happened was simple, right? House prices. I'm living in Birmingham, and I come home to a friend's wedding and realise his house was worth more than my house, and it shouldn't have been because of the London prices.
Yeah.
And I realised I've got to get back. Somehow I've got to get back. So I sold my house in Birmingham, bought a house in London.
Yeah.
And I was living with Keith Burchin. And then Charlton come in for me. And so I played on the Saturday for Villa against Liverpool in front of 38,000. Come down to London and met Jimmy Hill, who was the chairman of Charlton at the time. Jimmy Hill and Lenny Lawrence. Agreed to sign for Charlton and played my first game in front of 4,000. At the Valley, 4,000 people.
The Valley would have been in a bit of a state then
I was
as
in
well,
a state.
I think.
So Grimsby at home, I scored and Robert Lee scored a hat-trick. Rob Lee, as he likes to be called. You can't call him Robert. Rob Lee. And my first day's training at Charlton, I just thought, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? But I'll be absolutely honest, it was house prices.
Wow.
I thought if I didn't get back to London I'd never be able to get back.
Mm.
And it's still got that divide now, I would have thought. But it was the thing that changed my life because obviously Lenny Lawrence was the manager. I took a bad injury while I was at Charlton, ended up going off to Brighton. And then Lenny brought me back as a coach. And, you know, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah.
Because Lenny brought me back as a coach.
Did he see, what did he see in you then? Do you think?
Yeah, he just said, I always thought that you'd be a coach or a manager.
Okay.
So he brought me back as player coach. I ended up playing about 10 games, but I was looking after the reserves, playing about 10 games. And Lenny had a bust up with the first team coach, who was Mick Flanagan. They had a big bust up. And I walked in the morning. He went, right, you're with me now. So I've become first team coach and Steve Gritt became reserve team coach. And then a year later, Lenny left. And that's when me and Steve Gritt got the job.
Okay.
We was playing at Upton Park. And that was the reason why we got the job, because the club was on the floor. They couldn't afford a manager. Charlton had just been for 2 or 3 years at Selhurst Park. And now we was at Upton Park, which suited me fine. Don't worry about the journey. But so we was at Upton Park for 18 months.
Yeah.
Before, to be fair, I sold Rob Lee and Anthony Barnes. And the club put some money in and we bought the Valley back.
So basically, this is what's happened. You arrived at Charlton with Rob Lee.
Rob Lee was a schoolboy.
He's a schoolboy.
When I was at West Ham, I used to help. When I was at West Ham, I used to do some coaching in the evening.
Okay.
On Tuesdays and Thursdays.
So you had a good relationship.
And Rob Lee was a schoolboy at West Ham.
Okay.
And John Moncur. So I coached them 2 kids as kids.
Amazing.
And then when I went to Charlton, Rob Lee was at Charlton.
Okay.
So that was the 2 I can remember from when, because John always used to encourage us to coach. And so on a Tuesday or a Thursday, I'd coach at Fairlock Waters or at Pretoria School, like East London. And so that's how I started. And I always remember Rob Lee and John Moncur.
Wow.
Rob obviously went to Charlton. John went to, did you go to Spurs first?
Spurs and then
Spurs.
Swindon. Yeah. Well, it was a happy association, you and Charlton, because like you say, you joined the 4,000 attendance, the Valley's in a state, and by the time you left, it was a proper established Premier League club. And on your journey, you actually worked with a couple of West Ham legends. Obviously, we've got Paolo Di Canio, which we'll talk about, but a certain Carlton Cole.
Yeah.
You brought him in.
Well, I upset him big time. I don't want to go over it again, but I really upset Cole.
I think I upset you.
Yeah, no. And I thought it was all my fault until I found out the real reason. But no. Obviously, when I was at Charlton, Paolo come up as a free transfer. And when the free transfers come up, the man you get the list, but it also gives you the address and the phone number of the player.
Wow.
So you can contact them direct because they're frees.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at this list and Paolo's on it. And then I looked at where he lived in Loughton. I thought, okay. So I had a drive round there to his house, just had a look round and whatever. And I thought, can I get interested in him? Because I've heard all these stories and everything else. Can I? And I thought, bang. So I drove back round to his house.
You didn't ring him before? You just
No. I put a note in the letterbox.
Right.
Saying, look, if you want to have a chat with me,
call me.
But I never spoke to anybody else connected with West Ham or anything because I didn't want anyone to turn me off. I wanted to find out myself.
Yeah.
So anyway, I get a phone call from Roberto who tells me he's, he wants to talk to us, and he's coming back the weekend. So we met Paolo at his house. I went with the chairman, Richard Murray, Peter Varney, the chief executive, Jeff Fattir, the European scout who could speak Italian, and me. So we've all turned up, and Paolo's opened the door in the tightest pair of shorts and the tightest T-shirt you've ever seen in your life, right?
Just hanging around his ass.
Yeah, just to show off his physique.
That's what you had to do, yeah?
Yeah. So I thought, oh, right, okay. So we've gone into his room, his house, like his lounge, and we started talking, and Peter Varney, who you might remember as chief executive, we said, we've got this video. We want to show you this video of the club before we start talking about anything else. And it was a video, obviously, of Charlton winning the cup in 38 or whatever, and then leaving the Valley, playing everywhere else, and then going back to the Valley. And Paolo was sitting there, he was watching it, and he went, I love the history of the club. I didn't know too much. All I know is Richard Rufus used to kick me. Right? So he said, come, boss, I'll make you a coffee. Let the boys talk, like Roberto and the chairman and whatever. So I got into the kitchen with Paolo, and I just talked to him, and he's grinding the coffee, and he's boiling the milk, and I'm just looking at these hot pants he's got on.
He's got hot pants on.
That was really tight. So I'm just looking at Paolo, thinking, oh, God, you know what? Yeah.
We'll have to deal with this.
And then Roberto shouts out something, and he goes, boss, I need to talk. So he's gone into another room, and he's come back and said to me, boss, I love the club, but not that much. There was a swear word in there as well. So we couldn't agree terms. So anyway, we've come out. I didn't have nothing to do with the finances. It was the chairman. So we've come out and they went, we can't possibly do it. It's going to break our wage structure and everything else and this and that. I went, all right, fine. By the time they got to the Blackwall Tunnel, they agreed it. And Paolo was playing for us. And he had a massive effect on everybody. You know, the way he trained, the way he conducted himself. And, you know, and people like Parker and Konchesky, the young kids there at the time, were just like all over him. And he knew he had that little bit of power.
Yeah.
But he was really good. And no, he's fantastic. And as I say, Charlton were fourth when Scotty went. And we ended up finishing seventh, didn't we?
Yeah.
And just outside of Europe. And every time I see Paolo, he mentions the fact that he was instrumental in Charlton finishing their highest ever position.
I love that.
He was a great player for Charlton. Would you say, so now I've listened to all of that, and then would you say you was a big part of creating the infrastructure of what Charlton became eventually, where they were finishing 10th on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Because you remember you just talking about, obviously, going there, playing in front of 4,000 people, then obviously you go away and then come back, and then you join the coaching staff. Did you have a say in the investments that were made to make Charlton the club it is today?
Yeah.
Because I'd say that's like Pep almost with Manchester City.
No, I used to sit there. It's interesting because I'm hearing at the moment managers that have left their clubs saying that they're at loggerheads with this one and that one. Should sit down at the start of the season with the chairman, Richard Murray, and within reason, we'd talk about where we think the club should be. And the first couple of years in the Premier League, it was stay up. Let's just stay up. And then as more investment came in and the stadium was being built and etc., it was, well, I think we're better than that. You know, so he was saying to me, I think we should be mid-table, and I'm going, hold on, let's be realistic. But you know, we sort of had a realistic sort of expectations of where the club should be and what they was trying to do. And as I say, whenever I brought players in, I didn't rely on videos or what the scouts were telling me. I went and done it myself, you know, and tried to find out as much as I could before I signed anyone. And, you know, I think that's probably lost a little bit now because other people do that. Perhaps not the manager or the head coach. But I used to be involved in the whole thing, and there was one like we finished one season, and Richard Murray said to me, "Look, we need to do something with the stadium. We need to finish this bit off and whatever." He said, "So a third of the money this year is going to, because of the Premier League money, a third of the money is going to go on the team, a third of the money is going to go on the stadium, and a third of the money is going to be for a rainy day." And that's exactly what happened. You know, the stadium was, another bit went up and a bit went on the team, but we were struggling a little bit, and the rest of it come out and to keep us up. So we sat down every year and had that sort of discussion, which I can't imagine it being the same now, but that's how it was.
So you're at Charlton a long time, but it must have been, given your roots in West Ham, there must have always been that temptation to come back to East London. And I think I'm right in saying the first opportunity may have been 2001. Harry Redknapp leaves the club. And was there any contact at that point?
Yeah, there was. But I was really reluctant because I just signed a new contract. And so there was going to be a lot of aggravation in fairness, and I didn't want to get involved in that too much. So the contact was made, but I decided that it wasn't right. Not football reasons. It wasn't right. I just agreed and signed a new contract.
Timing wasn't right.
Yeah, and I just didn't want to go through the rigmarole of, compensation and legals and all that sort of stuff. It never happened.
Oh, I wonder what, because obviously we get relegated in 2003 with an unbelievable academy talent that ended up leaving. That's the sliding doors moment in the history of West Ham. What could have been. Yeah. But you do eventually come, around about December 2006, I think it is. West Ham are really in trouble, and you take over. Can you give us a sense of the dressing room you inherited back then?
Well, I think the team just got beat 4-0 at Bolton, I think.
Yeah, I was there.
And Alan Pardew was sacked. Then I got a phone call about a week later about talking to the club. But obviously it was Egard Magnusson and Terry Brown was still there, I think, in a capacity, but it was Egard Magnusson and whatever. And obviously I agreed. It was December the 13th, I think, something like that. And the first game up was Man U.
Yeah.
I took over. We won that game.
1-0, Nigel Reo-Coker.
Then we go to Fulham and draw 0-0. And I'm thinking, well, what's the problem? What is the problem? Then we didn't win a game for 10.
Yeah.
Didn't win a game for 10. And, the window opened up. And the January transfer window is fraught with danger. No disrespect to players that have been transferred in, but you end up paying too much. You end up possibly getting players no one wants. That's why they're letting them go, that sort of thing. Whereas in the summer, it's a little bit different. You have to fight to get a player. Anyway, it was a difficult time and made a little bit more difficult. Then Pars went to Charlton, and there was a little bit of to-in and fro-in and behind the scenes. Pars fancied one or two of the West Ham boys, and do you fancy one or two of the Charlton boys and that sort of thing? And I was glad when the window closed, to be honest. But as I say, we beat Man U, drawn at Fulham, then didn't win a game for 10. And one of the games was at Sheffield United, and Sheffield United beat us, and they were 10 points clear with 10 games to go. And I think everybody thought that was possibly it. The gap was so great, and obviously then we picked up, culminating in the last game of the season. So my first game was Man United, and the last game of the season was Man United, and we done a double.
Yeah,
and I was good friends with Fergie, and he said, "I know we're friends, but I ain't that friendly." You know what I mean? Because whatever. But obviously, and then the next game, we beat Man United again. So we actually beat Man United 3 times on the spin.
They had their number that season.
Yeah. I think there's only Benitez that's done that before.
There you go.
At Liverpool, I think. So, the Great Escape or whatever. And the players at the club, as I said, 9 of the players that were playing in that run-in was already at the club.
Yeah, I didn't realise that.
So it was only playing regular. It was only Lucas Neal and Lewis Beaumorty who were playing. The rest of the players had already been at the club and been through the mill or whatever. And I'll be honest, I did say, we had to go and play a testimonial at Northampton. It had already been agreed at the half. And 6,000 West Ham fans turned up at this end of season testimonial for whatever. And, amazing. But I did say to the players after that game, thanks and great and whatever, but I need to know if you want to go, if you want to stay. We've all been through the mill. I'm going to go in the office. Please come and see me if you're unhappy. I thanked everybody for keeping us up. But if you're that unhappy, come and see me. And, we're still trying to sort it out. And a few come and see me, as everyone knows. And, it was the only way I could change not the mentality, but, if people were unhappy, that was the time for it to be changed. So a few left and a few came in and, that was it.
Interesting you talk about the January transfer business. I looked up who we signed. You mentioned, Lucas Neal, Louis Beaumorte, Matthew Upson, Nigel Quasi come in. But in particular, Lucas Neal, when I speak to players who were in that team, say he made a tremendous impact on the team and really brought the players together.
Yeah, he was. I didn't know what sort of leader he was. And, you hear stories. Perhaps he wasn't the best at all of them, but he was a big influence. He could have gone to Liverpool. Liverpool was interested in signing him from Blackburn. But, we managed to get him. And I just think the players, it was a young squad. It was a squad that had won promotion, got to a cup final, and never had a bad run.
Yeah.
Never gone 6 or 7 games without winning before. And I just thought that when I walked in there, the players thought it was everybody else's fault except theirs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And sort of didn't know how to get out of the mess they was in. And as I say, that was the only bad time they'd ever had a bad run in 2 or 3 years. And they didn't know how to cope with it, I didn't think. But as I say, once it changed, they were, as we said earlier, mucking about. They were doing things on the pitch that you'd have thought a month ago they would never even dreamt of.
Yeah.
Not even dreamt of. So it just shows you what confidence can do.
I bumped into Marlon Harewood last night, and I always assumed on the Great Escape season it was the home defeat to Spurs in the March that turned the club around. But I was chatting to Marlon, and he said it was actually, he thought the turning point was an away game at Charlton, which we lost 4-0, so a heavy defeat. And he said what happened is the lads got into the dressing room after the game, and they all had a big fight.
Yeah, it was a bit of a...
It wasn't a big fight.
It wasn't a big fight, but it was just, and obviously...
A lot of emotions were in the air at that time. I remember it.
And I'd obviously just gone back there. You know what I mean? And first time I gone back there and got battered and whatever. And I remember going into the little room with Pards and Keith Peacock to have a drink with them afterwards. And I won't tell you what I said, but it was on the lines of, you brought 2 players in today who play for England. And it was Luke Young. I can't remember the other one. Anyway, I said, and I brought 2 players in from somewhere else today, which I won't mention. And I thought it summed it up. The mentality of Charlton at the time and our mentality. I didn't know about the scrap, but I'm glad that they did because, the way it was going, as I say, no one could see how we was going to get out of it.
Yeah.
And I think you need a bit of luck, and we got that at Blackburn. I think Tevez scored and the ball didn't go over the line. And I think we got a penalty that wasn't the penalty.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it was the first time we had any luck, and we won it. And suddenly it just changed the whole thing, And you talk about the Spurs game, winning 3-1 and losing 4-3.
In the last minute too.
Last minute, yeah. Yeah, that was a big one. And I remember going out to the car park at Upton Park because it was wired off, wasn't it, the players' car park. There was a couple of West Ham fans down there, and they called me over, and I thought, I'll front it. I'll go over. They're angry, whatever. And they told me a few home truths, which is fair enough. And I got in my car. Everyone was, I think what was going on, everyone was so angry about everything, and no one could see any way out of it. But as I say, to the credit, and I keep going on about it, because everyone talks about the Great Escape, but 9 of them 11 players was already at the club before I got there.
Yeah.
So it was just a confidence thing, and mentality and confidence,
Yeah.
One of the things, we talk about the players, but I feel like when we got that luck, that win at Blackburn that maybe wasn't deserved, we got some points on the board, and I felt like the fans got behind the team. It felt like there was a togetherness there that maybe hadn't been before. And I think I remember we used to play Great Escape. We used to play it, the theme tune, on up to part, like before games and at half time. And it's like the fans bought into it as well, and the players seemed to buy into it. And we just went on this incredible run, and there was a togetherness that maybe hadn't been there.
The energies were aligned.
Sorry?
The energy was aligned. So between fans, players, the club.
Yeah.
Because that's what you need if you're going for a rut.
I think one of the games was away at Wigan.
Yeah.
And I think Alan Boer just died. I think. And the West Ham fans just sung his name all day. Because he's a World Cup winner or whatever. I always remember it. And when it got to the end of the season and they was all crying their eyes out, Sheffield United and everybody else, I think they forgot what had happened. As I said, West Ham win, 7 out of 9? But obviously, if you get relegated, you're going to look for every angle. And, West Ham got fined for the two boys, which I knew nothing about when I walked into the club.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with you, yeah.
I had nothing to do. I didn't understand it, and I still don't understand it because Tevez goes to Man U and Mascherano goes to Liverpool. I still don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many famous victories in that run. The one I want to talk about is beating Arsenal, the first team to beat Arsenal at the Emirates, first away team. It was a 1-0 victory, Bobby Zamora goal, and that was as back to the wall performance as you're ever going to see in your life.
Greeny was magnificent that day.
There was a force field over his goal that day.
Yeah, he was magnificent. And I mean, we ended up beating Everton, who were at the top 6, Bolton, who were top 6. Obviously, Man United twice. Well, Man United at the end of the season. It's just an incredible run, and as I say, I can only put it down to a change in confidence of the players. And as I say, I don't think it was too much to do with me and Merv or whatever. They just they got them a couple of results, and it just changed everything. People were bouncing into training.
Yeah, but I always say that. I say, listen, there's the manager and the manager can say what he wants. The playing staff are the ones that matter, because they're the ones that can change the narrative on how they approach things. So it's up to the manager to give that confidence sometimes on the training pitch, know what we're doing. But as soon as you set your plan, it's about how the players attack it, each an individual. And if you don't have that bond between each other, because that year I remember we had to go away from the football pitch to go and bond. And I don't know if Lucas ever told you that we'd go and do extracurricular activities.
Yeah, no. I know.
Away from you and the sight of the staff. And you didn't need to know about it. It was just us. And I think that's what that kind of galvanized something between us, that we can trust each other with a secret kind of thing. And these things happen. I know you've probably been through it when the players just have to go and do their own work. And then they come back to the table and say, this is what we're going to do now. And there's a kind of a plan. And it's like, I've got to work for you because you're my brother. And you're going to work for me so I know that I can depend on you. Once you find that, then tactics, then the gaffer can come in, and then he's got something to work with then after that. But if you don't have that, then anything the gaffer says, it's just going to go through the players and just go through one ear and out the other. So it's a very hard thing to do. But I think when you've got certain characters in the dressing room, you'll find that spirit that's needed. Yeah.
One thing I heard, actually Marlon mentioned it, was that you'd have player-only meetings. Like after that Charlton defeat and the Spurs defeat, the players would pull themselves together, lock themselves in a room and kind of have it out. As a manager, I imagine that's something you actually want to happen. You want the players to be taking responsibility.
Of course you do. You can't just keep hearing one voice. Or as I say, Merv would be going around being like the confident a little bit, talking to the players and whatever.
He's very good at it as well.
And you got the feedback from him. But at the end of the day, it's the players. It is the players. And as I say, the confidence that came out of them after a couple of results was quite incredible. Brilliant. And so we finished that season, and the next season I think we finished 10th.
Yeah,
was
10th.
It 10th?
Yeah.
And looking forward to the next season, and not knowing what was going on behind the scenes. I think we only played about 4 games, didn't we? And that was it. And I think Blackburn was the game. I remember points. remember walking into the office and Paul Ince, I think he got sacked after that game. Blackburn, Paul Ince.
Yeah.
And then I went upstairs to find out that a player had gone, and I didn't even know anything about, So, and I'm just thinking to myself, blimey, I've been through that season. Then we finished 10th, and now we've started well this season. I think we're about 4th or 5th.
Yeah.
To be told what was going on, I didn't really know too much about the finances. As well, I was at Charlton, I was on top of it, that sort of thing. But I wasn't. Once I went into West Ham, it was other people were dealing with that, and so then the end comes.
I was there that the day you was at the training ground, and you didn't know Anton had gone up the motorway
George
to
McCartney and George McCartney.
And George McCartney as well. They've gone up the motorway. So I remember you asking me, "Where's your mate?"
Yeah.
I says, "I thought you told me." But that's like football. When football gets like that, and there's no communication, and everyone's not on the same page. That's the time when you've got to look at what's going on around you. And I think that was the time when you probably had enough.
Well, as I say, you can't manage, can you, in that situation? But really disappointing, because when I look back on my career as a player, I left the club too early. I played my best football at Birmingham. And as a manager, I left the club too early again. So that's my two regrets, that, left the club twice and too early.
Oh. But quick word on that season we finished 10th, which came after the Great Escape. You made some fantastic signings. I mean, it gets overlooked, but you brought Scott Parker in, who went on to win Hammer of the Year so many times. Craig Bellamy was fantastic for us. And I also love Nobby Solano, but his little cameo when he joined as well. Some really great business.
I rose up that year as well. I started to play some regular football because we had a load of injuries, didn't we? Dean Ashton was injured. I think...
Yeah, Dean. I never got Dean.
Bellows was in and out sometimes.
Yeah.
Kieran Dyer was always injured that season.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of playing time that year, and that's when I got regular football.
Yeah, you started playing for England as well.
No, that was later on. That was the season afterwards. But that was the I'd say that catapulted me into playing regularly in the Premier League.
Yeah. As I say,
I know I was your last choice, by the way. You didn't want me at that time. I was probably the last choice, but I came to the fold and I had to be reliable.
But as I say, finishing 10th.
I'm supposed to deny that, by the way.
But finishing, some things go over your head. But we finished 10th that year, and started the next season.
Yeah,
and I think we was in 5th or 6th or something like after 3 games. And, for that to happen, and people have said to me on plenty of occasions, you should have toughed it out. And perhaps I should have, right? But the Icelandic boys are gone, in all fairness. I didn't know the finances, how they bought the club and what was going on. And then, as I say, not knowing one or two things that was going on beyond, but, it was not right. So, I had something in my contract that they completely broke, and there was nothing I could do.
Yeah. Quick, one man who was instrumental in that Great Escape was a great player, Carlos Tevez. As a manager, when you're coming in and working with someone like that, what was Carlos like around the?
Well, the two things. I've gone in, and there was an interpreter, wasn't there? There was a young kid, from Sheffield, who was like. The interpreter for the two of them. Right. So I called them both in. I said, look, I don't really understand the situation, but what do you want to do? And to be fair, Carlos said he wanted to stay, and Mascherano said he wanted to leave. And we got a lot of stick for letting Mascherano go, but, I hadn't even seen Mascherano play. As far as he didn't train, he said he was injured, so he didn't want to be there, fine, but Tevez wanted to stay. And after about 3 games, I called him and the interpreter in, and in the dressing room we had a pitch, if you like. It was divided into 3 bits, like back defensive third, midfield third, attacking third. And I said to the interpreter, the young kid, I want you to say it as I say it. Right? You say it as I say it. So I said to Carlos, I'm going to give you marks out of 10. For the defensive third, I'm giving you 6 out of 10. For the midfield third, I'm giving you 9 out of 10. For the attacking third, I'm giving you 2. And so as he told Carlos, as he was telling him, then Carlos was looking at me and I said, how are you going to score an effing goal if you're never in that box? You do everything else but go in there. So the kid told him. I went, so then he looked at me and I said, so I'm talking to him, but I said, so if you want to play for me, you've got to stay in that attacking third. And that's what changed him.
Really? You think that was simple as that?
Yeah. He was doing everything else.
Yeah, he was.
Except going in the box.
Yeah.
So, anyway, he scored. I can't remember when he took his shirt off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and Spurs.
And it summed it all up. He had a little bit of a belly. You know what I mean? He just lost his way. But once he got back on track, he was a different player.
Yeah.
Just totally different. And everyone talks about him. And I think it's a little bit unfair that it was all down to Tevez, because it wasn't. But it was a major part.
Yeah, that last game of that run, Old Trafford, when he scores that goal 1-0 and it's full-time whistle, we know we've done it. What were the feelings that washed over you on that rainy day? Like, what did that feeling feel like?
I think I said on the day, because Jeff Streezer I knew was doing the Sky thing, and I said I just wanted to say I hope, and I'm going to do my best that we're never in this position again.
Yeah,
going through this.
That.
And I think I saw Nobes crying, and when Eggard managed to get to the dressing rooms, he had to walk through the lounges, which were full of West Ham fans, because West Ham fans, when they go away, they don't just buy the tickets. They don't just buy the tickets to stand up.
No.
They buy the other stuff as well, the hospitality.
It's all around it.
And he walked
Day out.
He's walked through the lounge, and by the time he got to the dressing room, he had all kisses on his head. where people,
I think I remember it.
Where women had kissed him.
I think I remember it.
It was quite incredible, wasn't it? And so I just had that feeling, and I went into Fergie's office afterwards, and they were going to a cup final, I think, and what he'd done, he arrested 1 or 2 people like Rooney and Ronaldo or whatever, and then he brought them on. And if anybody was at the game, the stretch for them was singing, "Send them down, send them down, send them down," because we'd done Man United so many times.
It was fed up of us.
Yeah.
No, the league. We West Ham stopped Man United winning the league
multiple times.
Yeah, so there was
a couple. Yeah.
So the stretch for them was send them down, send them down, send them down, and we still wasn't sure, because you keep hearing bad results. It was only like the last 5 minutes you could quite enjoy it. And as I said earlier that we then, that was on the Sunday. On the Monday we played this testimonial, and 6,000 West Ham fans turn up at Northampton for someone's testimonial.
Amazing, isn't it?
So incredible.
When I think back at that season, I think, so I wasn't playing much, but obviously when you're around the training ground, you hear the vibe, you feel the vibe, you feel everything that was going on. But I thought what was special about that season, and he doesn't get much plaudits about this, but the effort that Bobby Zamora put in week in, week out, it goes. I know, listen, Tevez is the big name and everyone remembers Tevez, and the fans will always hold him in high regard because he scored that goal. But the amount of work that I saw Bobby Zamora put in that season to try and keep us afloat and try and keep us in the Premier League goes unnoticed, and I don't think he gets enough credit for that.
No.
So I'd like to big up
quite
Bobby
right.
Zamora.
Quite right. Him and Tevez were a handful.
And Rob Green, obviously, because Rob Green was outstanding as well.
But that was a right handful, the two of them. And with Tevez, because he found his mojo, if you like, he could drop into midfield and help out, and then he could go up top and cause a few problems. But if we got our noses in front, we knew that, we had enough people dogging around, and him included. And it was, as you're saying, you said earlier, it was a settled side that had found their way. I just wish it had been a little bit earlier.
Well, we're in a similar situation now, and obviously Nuno is embedding a lot of the youth team players. We've got Ollie Scholes playing, Ezra Myers last night, and you did something similar with Mark Noble. You know, Mark Noble went on to have such a great West Ham career. You forget that at the time he was still a rough and ready academy player. What was it about him that you felt, was the right thing for that team at the time? Did he have a spirit or something that the team needed?
No, it was in training. It was in training, and he was in my face all the time.
Yeah.
Because I didn't let him go to it. I think it was Ipswich. I can't remember. You have to ask Mark. But, he was in my face saying, and he'd go up to Merv and have a chat with Merv and whatever. Like, I'm ready. And, we got to a situation where, we wasn't winning. And I thought, give him a game. And I think it was the Spurs game. I think. And obviously he scored. And then we get done, and that's him on the pitch crying. But yeah, he just come into the side. And what I said earlier about homegrown talent, the fans suddenly had someone who they could get behind. He's a 17-year-old and he's trying to keep us up. So that was great for everybody.
So we're coming to the end now. Obviously, you started life a West Ham fan. Am I safe in saying you're still a West Ham fan to this day?
Yeah, of course. But, I watched from afar. I've been over a couple of times. I wanted to see what Moyes done against Man City especially, and Liverpool. So when I get invited over, because I've got a couple of good friends who are in the Arnold Hills or whatever, and they asked me to come over. I want to see a Pacific opposition. I want to see what the team does. So I came over. I done a thing. It was a charity thing for Great Ormond Street where someone put up 4 tickets and I brought them and I sat in the Billy Bond stand.
Nice.
Against Liverpool.
Yeah.
And, it took these 3 punters to a pub in Stratford, the Cow.
All right.
Would it be?
Yeah, the Cow just up there.
Yeah.
Surely the Lord Stanley.
No. No, I met him in Stratford.
Yeah.
And then we walked to the game.
Yeah.
And then we went back and had a drink. Stratford Centre, not in Westfield, like the main road.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was called,
Yeah.
the pub. But that was their day out. They paid a lot of money for the tickets for Great Ormond Street. So that was the last time I was here.
I went to Charlton because obviously I had the loans with Kev Keane at the club. And so I went and watched one of our players, Caelan Casey, v Charlton, Swansea v Charlton. You starting the game. And then I didn't actually notice at the start. And then as I was watching the game, I just looked up and I saw Alan Curbishley stand opposite me. I was like, that's amazing. I said, I know him. How is it like to have your own stand? It's amazing, isn't it?
It ain't mine.
You can take it back, can't you? That's how it works.
Take it
and put it in the garden.
The thing is, when they done it, they got me on the pitch and said, look, what do you think? I said, well, it'd be all right if you spelt my name right.
What, they didn't do it properly?
Well, my name ain't Alan.
Okay, so what?
It never has been Alan.
But everyone knows you for Alan.
Yeah. But it's Llewellyn.
Llewellyn. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
And they said it wouldn't have fitted.
Yeah.
But,
I remember we was actually having banter in the dressing room because when we found out that day. We didn't know.
Yeah. But no, they got me over about, I don't know how long ago it was when they said they wanted to do it. And because that stand, there used to be a big bank.
Yeah, great. I've seen.
Used to be about 30,000 people on that bank.
Is it? Yeah.
It's grassy knoll kind of thing.
Yeah. It was just all steps and concrete. And when I signed for him, whenever Lenny got the ump, Lenny Lawrence used to make us run up it.
And if only you'd known that one day.
They're my steps. Yeah. They're my steps.
Makes me run up it. And as we'd finish, I let Lenny know that I said things that he could hear. You know what I mean? And he'd be walking off knowing what I'd said. So whatever you boys said about me went over my head. Don't worry about that. So you can say whatever you wanted about me.
Alan, it's been great to have you here chatting through West Ham memories. And, as someone who's navigated this situation before successfully that we find ourselves in now, gives me great comfort to know it can be done and to hear how you did it before. Cheers, Coley.
Cheers, mate.
And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Ironcast. Until then, come on, you Irons.